call is now being recorded.
Welcome to MyBluesRoots.com. Palmdale Slim here, and we have another very special guest today. We're talking with harmonica expert and blues aficionado from the Northeast, the James Montgomery Blues Band, the man, James Montgomery. He's been around, the band's been around since 1970, and we're here to talk about what's going on now in 2016. Welcome to MyBluesRoots.com, James.
Hey, I'm proud to be on board and glad to be here, and we got a lot of stuff going on, so I'm really happy you called.
Yeah, I noticed in one of your videos you said you were talking about the old days, and you were talking about, hey, you know, in the old days, if it wasn't from Chicago or Detroit, we wouldn't play it. How was it that you came to love the blues so much?
Well, you know, I had a radio show for about 5 or 6 years before I joined the Johnny Winter Band, and the reason I mention that is I interviewed 110 blues artists, and every single one of them, well, all but two, to be honest, all but two had a moment. You know, that doesn't happen in rock and roll. You know, rock and roll musicians, you know, oh, I wanted to play guitar, I wanted to wear Beatle boots, I wanted to get the girls, whatever it was.
Yeah.
But blues musicians all have a moment, and so. And Coco Taylor told me her moment, and Bonnie Raitt told me her moment. And my moment was I was 15 years old, and I saw somebody playing live blues for the first time in a jug band. And I had that moment where I said, whoa, that's what I want to do. And I want to play harmonica, I want to play blues. And so, you know, and I was growing up in the Detroit area, so it was a huge blues town in those days. There were 5 clubs open, and not only the Detroit artists, but the Chicago artists were only like 3.5
hours away. Right? Yeah.
So you know, you had to make up your mind whether you were going to see John Lee Hooker that night, or Muddy Waters that night, or Junior Wells that night. And
oh my God!
And yeah, no, I mean it was great. And in those days, you know, even as a kid, there was no security. You could just walk in the dressing room and say hello. So, you know,
well, didn't Junior have trouble playing in clubs at first because they thought he was too young? I think I used to hear.
Well,
about
Junior Wells and you know, Buddy Guys had such tremendous success. I always mention Junior because it used to be Junior Wells and Buddy Guy, and Junior kind of brought Buddy along, and in a sense. But anyway, so growing up in that environment, I thought if you were from Detroit or Chicago, you know, how can you play blues? And the first James Montgomery band in Boston was basically all Detroit musicians, because I had a drummer from the Caldwell Winfield band out of Boston, and all the other guys I brought in from Detroit. So. But so you know, playing blues to me was something that, like I say, like an epiphany. I had this epiphany that that's what I wanted to do, and that originally, you know, my original experience was with jug band music, so you know, it was mostly acoustic, Sonny Terry type of stuff, and of course I was a big fan of Jim Kweskin jug band. And so I went to see the Jim Kweskin Jug Band in Detroit, and you know, Kweskin and Butterfield were pretty good friends. So they mentioned something about the Paul Butterfield Band, and they all laughed on stage. So when I went to see the Paul Butterfield Band, I was expecting to see like an acoustic band.
Oh, right.
And I had never heard electric harmonica before, and I was sitting in the front row about 6 feet from Paul's amp. And now what they did at the Chestnut Coffee House, when the blues artists would leave, is they would have a local Detroit rock band come on sometimes and play an additional set. So it didn't occur to me when I saw all this electric equipment up there that Paul Butterfield Band was going to be electric. And I'll tell you what, when Maury Weinbaum, I think that was the guy's name who owned the Chessman. He goes, ladies and gentlemen, the Paul Butterfield Band. And before it could even sink into me, that like Little Walter did, you know, Little Walter, bum, 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 bum. Paul Butterfield, pop, 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 and you know that Maxell commercial where the guy's scarf is like he blew me away.
Yeah,
I was
exactly.
in front of his amp, and you know, Butter had such tone and such
He
authority.
really had tone. Yeah, he did.
And he just blew me away. So anyway, so that's how I kind of
I got you. Oh, I think it's interesting that you talk about that moment because we have all had that, whether we're famous or not. I know I had my moment, putting down the needle on a Muddy Waters record, and about 30 seconds into it, I was hooked for life.
Wow.
I think we've all had that, and that's what's amazing about this music. Now, you were just talking about Junior Wells, but I've seen you in a performance where you say, hey, you call him your teacher, and I wanted to hear more about what exactly did you learn about harp playing from Junior Wells, and how did that all come about?
Well, here's the deal. I had like three guys that were like my mentors, and all from different aspects. John Lee Hooker, who I met when I was a kid and then played in his band when I was 19. He was kind of my mentor to not musically, although I played with him, and when you played with John Lee, of course, you never knew when he was going to change.
Yeah.
But at least you knew it was going to probably be a 1 chord, a 4 chord, or a 5 chord. I remember the first.
Just had
time
to follow along, right?
Yeah. I mean, at least you kind of, even though he would change, you knew where it was going. When I sat
he
in,
didn't play 12 bars either. He played maybe 14 or 15, right?
Oh, one night the song was 16 bars, the next night it was 23, and the next night it was 4 or whatever. Yeah. And the funny thing is, the one time that I sat in with Honey Boy Edwards, let's stick to this here. So Hooker was kind of my mentor in terms of like, cause he was not, everybody remembers him as kind of this frail old guy,
Right.
These blues guys, when I was growing up as a kid, and when I met them and got to know these guys really well in my early 20s, these guys were pretty tough guys, I mean, when Muddy's band hit the road, they'd all polish their guns as soon as they got into the band and stuff,
Yeah.
And so John Lee Hooker, when he lived in Detroit, he was the first guy I ever knew that like had a posse or an entourage, When John Lee would show up, he'd have his guys with him, and those guys were tough. I mean, it was downtown Detroit. It was like, right around the time they burned the city down. I mean, these were not lightweight people.
Well, that's where that song "I'm Bad Like Jesse James" came from, huh? When he used to sing about his guys, his kids,
Yeah, no, absolutely, and there was a certain amount of truth to that. And and the Motor City's Burning, which I recorded on my last record, with Joey Kramer from Aerosmith on drums. But anyway, but so John Lee was kind of my mentor in terms of like how to carry yourself and how to like be a blues musician. And then my mentor for how to run a show and how to put on a show was James Cotton. And we're still lifelong friends. He actually calls me son, and I call him dad when I call the house there. Jack will say, "Hey, your dad wants to talk to you,"
Oh yeah.
But Junior was more. I mean, I learned stuff from Cotton, some basic harmonica stuff. But Junior was like my mentor in terms of most of my phrasing.
Because I recognize Junior's, I can recognize your phrasing sounds very similar to his. He had that short staccato kind of thing, and I hear that with you too. And I'm a harp player myself, so I'm really tuned into harp players when I listen.
Well,
and I wasn't surprised when you said, "Hey, Junior's my teacher," because I could hear it in your playing. It sounds it's not the same, but it's your thing. That's cool.
Yeah, and I, for me, my phrasing mostly comes from Junior Wells and Paul Butterfield, and but Junior was, and Cotton was like, it showed me how to run a show, and he just showed me some stuff. But he was the unique thing about Cotton is that he was a direct disciple of Sonny Boy Williamson, but when he got to work with Muddy Waters, which is a great story. If we have time for it, I'll tell you. But
sure, go ahead, tell me.
Well, I'll finish the.
Go ahead.
So anyway, so when Cotton got the gig with Muddy Waters, Muddy told him, "You got the gig, but you have to learn how to play everything like Little Walter." So Cotton ended up playing more like Walter than Sonny Boy, you know. So
Yeah.
but Junior, the reason Junior was like my teacher, as was Cotton, but Junior mostly because he actually was the guy who, you know, went over phrases with me and stuff, and if I was playing and he was in the same town and he'd have the night off, he'd actually come down to see me play and put a chair right in front of the stage.
Wow.
And if I played something that he liked, he nodded his head yes, and if I played something he didn't like, he nodded his head no. And
wow.
and you know, yeah, and you know how I learned how to play third position. I mean, for listeners who don't know, the viewers that don't know third position.
Yeah, well, no, go ahead and talk about that, because actually part of the website, we have a harmonica instruction page, and we get into things like third position. And I know that Junior played some interesting third position stuff, because I remember the first time I figured out he was using an A harp in third position, I was just stunned, you know.
Well, yeah, you know, the thing is, all harmonica players, I think, you know, get introduced to blues and rock through second position.
Right.
And then, but you hear these guys before you know what third position is, and for those of you viewing or listening or whatever's going on here, with each harmonica, you should, and then other guys claim four, but I've yet to really believe, you know, Paul Washer.
I hear about fourth position too, and in fact, I even heard Charlie Musselwhite talking about it, but he wouldn't talk about what interval it was, so I'm not sure.
Well, yeah, they don't. You know why they don't talk about fourth position? Because there's only about 3 notes available on the harp in that position. And you know, if you want to play anyway. So my introduction to third position, you know, is speaking about Junior being a teacher. He goes, and all these guys used to call me Montgomery. Even when I was a kid, they didn't call me Montgomery James or anyone. I was always Montgomery, you know. Most of the guys would call me Montgomery, except Hooker, who would call me Montgomery. And and I'll tell you about my last conversation with him too. But anyway, so where Junior goes, Montgomery says, "Do you move that third position?" I said, "No, Junior, I've never played it." He said, "Well, all right, you know." So he calls me up on stage that night, and he hands me the harmonica for third position, knowing that I have no idea what the hell it even is. And he calls me up. He's playing with Buddy Guy, and then I said, "What key are we going to play?" He says, "Don't you worry, man. I hand you the harp when you come on stage, you know." I said, "Oh, great, you know." So I come up there and he hands me the harp for third position. We're at Joe's place in Cambridge. It's a full house. And all of a sudden I'm going, well, I guess I'm going to have to learn how to play third position now.
Yeah. That's a hell of a way to learn.
Yeah.
And by the way, you go ahead.
No, I was just going to say when, you know, talking about the way Hooker used to call them Montgomery. In my last conversation with him, which was just anywhere between a month, you know, 6 to 8 weeks before he died. He goes, Montgomery. He says, I finally got what I desired. And for me, that was the greatest news I could hear from John Lee, that he passed away knowing that he got what he deserved. Because when you think about rock musicians or jazz, even jazz musicians, but it's still a rarity. But for a blues musician, I mean, you know, who while they are still alive just knows that they got what they deserve. You can,
because he was definitely when he passed, he was already a legend. So
he was, and he knew it, and Bonnie and Robert and you know, Carlos, they all supported him. But when you think about it, it's John Lee Hooker, B.B. King, Buddy Guy, Muddy Waters,
Wolf,
and then the list starts running out. I'm not even sure the Wolf knew how much
he may not have. You're right.
That he really got what he deserved. I mean, he knew he was popular. But, you know, in other words, to get the level of recognition that these guys deserve. You know, these guys who are pioneers and these guys who invented rock and roll and who really changed the history of American music and had such a great influence on worldwide. You know, I always make the case that you know, when the Berlin Wall came down, it wasn't so much because of Reagan starving the Soviet Union's defense program or the Polish Pope. It was because those kids who tore the wall down, they wanted American rock and roll and blue jeans.
You know, you're probably right. I mean, yeah, because it wasn't something nebulous, you know, like freedom or liberty or whatever. It was specific. Yeah.
They wanted the culture that blues exported. You know, let's put it this way: when Iran took the hostages during the Carter administration, the most popular items among all the 20-somethings in Iran were American blue jeans and American rock and roll tapes, and they were on the black market, and they all went. So who invented that stuff? Muddy Waters,
right?
Junior Wells, and John Lee Hooker, and all these guys invented this music that eventually changed. You know, it
changed the world.
Yeah, it's called soft power. You know, the soft power is the influence that. Well, part of soft power is the influence that culture has on as a foreign policy. And the word of Skunk Baxter, and the Skunk Baxter says, therefore, artistic freedom becomes a matter of national security. But anyway, so that's how I feel about these guys, you know, and the music that they played. It's that,
and I think all of us that love it, that if you really truly revere the music, you have to revere the guys that, you know, it was about their lives and their experiences, and we're to a certain extent, a lot of us are co-opting those experiences, but we're also learning, I guess, how to take that music and talk about our own experiences, which is what they were doing, I guess. So, and in fact, that's what I want to talk about. You have a song. You have a song that you wrote, I believe, called "Train," which is very much like that. I think that's when I first heard that, I thought, wow, that is a very vivid tune, and somebody was living life on that train when they wrote that. So I know it's become kind of your signature tune. So tell me a little bit about that song and the life that song has had, because it seemed to me like you've been playing it for a long time, probably.
We have, and at one time it was the number one song played in Boston for like 2 years or something like that. And basically, and I don't take credit for writing it. It's a traditional song that you know, Elvis did his Mystery Train, and
yeah, there's aspects of that in there. I hear that. Yeah.
Yeah, but what I did, you know, I like you know, I like to be like you know, and I hate to use this comparison, but I like to be like Tom Brady or Peyton Manning. I like to call audibles on stage, you know, like that. Even for my earliest band in high school, you know, I like to change arrangements on stage. I like for the band to follow me. I could change keys or tempos with hand signals. And that song, Train, there was just one night when we're getting ready to play Mystery Train, you know, and we were going to do kind of a Paul Butterfield version of it. And the band started in on this kind of train beat, and I just thought to myself, you know, I think I'll front sell this song, you know. And actually, way back in the day when the Sugar Hill Gang and all these people started rap music, there was an article that appeared in the Rolling Stone or something like that, and they were talking about how this new thing called rap. But they said, well, but in the meantime, Peter Wolf and James Montgomery have already been doing this stuff because because a lot of times when the band would play a vamp, I would just, you know, make up a story that had rhymes,
right.
And then I got some of that from Lou Rawls when he would do that stuff about the Windy City and everything.
Oh, right. Mm-hmm.
You know, he would set up a song by telling a long story about it before he would launch into the song itself. So there was just one night I was on stage at the Candlelight Lounge, and it must have been around that was probably around 1970. And I just decided that before we got into the song, I just made up this long story, and I had the band follow me, you know, and when I brought my hands up, they intensified, and when I brought them down, the dynamic came down.
Mm-hmm.
And it worked out great because we stayed on the one for so long when I told the story.
Right.
Eventually, when we built it up and built it up, and we went to the four change, it was such a huge release. And what happened with that song is it became my signature song, and like I say, it was the number one played song on BCN for a long time, and all the New England radio stations, and we played.
And
it
that's
for
kind of
20
an
years.
unusual song to be playing on radio stations back in the 70s. You didn't hear a lot of stuff like that back then, right?
Well, no, you didn't, and it was long too. It was like 10 or 12 minutes long. And as a matter of fact, one time I did a radio interview at a station in Denver where I happen to be right now. But I did a radio interview at the station in Denver, and the DJ says, every day at this time, I play your train song every single day. And I'm going, oh, I'm so flattered. I'm going, this is great. He says, yeah, watch this. And he puts on the song. We go down one flight of stairs. We go across the street to a bar where they're playing the radio, where they're playing the station. And we order a couple of beers, and we're having a beer, and he can hear the song in case something goes wrong with the needle or something. And so it turned out that he played train every day so he could put on a 10, 12-minute song and walk across the street and have a beer during his show.
Yeah, I used to be a radio guy. I used to I remember Creedence Clearwater had a 12-minute version of Heard It Through the Grapevine. I used to do the same thing. So those long cuts aren't so bad,
Yeah.
Sometimes you have to use the facilities, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and I thought it was great. I said, I don't care what it takes. If you should have played my song every day and have a beer, that's fine with me. But
that's a great story.
Yeah,
but it is a great song, and I think you hit it on the head because I think it encapsulates what I've seen you do on stage, which is, like you said, you built up such tension by the way you opened the song up, and from what I can tell, the audiences that are seeing you perform are really on the edge of their seats because they're like, "What's going to happen next?" And I think that's a cool thing.
It's like James Bond used to do that too. I mean, there was a song that he did. But anyway, one of JB's tricks, one of the things you want to do with live music is have a tension and release,
Right.
And JB used to do that too. He would stay on the part, he'd lay on the one chord, and every time he'd want to hear it go to the floor, he wouldn't let it go there. And then as soon as you thought you got used to, and I'm talking intuitively, not intellectually, but as soon as intuitively you figured out, okay, this is just going to be a groove song, it's not going to go to the floor. All of a sudden, he'd go to the floor change, and it would be such a release. And we had so many requests for that song over the years. We played it for probably 20 years or 25 years, and then we stopped. And because we've done it so much. But every single night I would get a request for it. So with my current band, about 2 years ago, we're getting ready to go out to an encore, and I had gotten 4 requests that night for Train, and I told the guys, I said, look, I know you guys don't know the song. I mean, I know you kind of get the idea of it, but we're going to play it. Just go out there and give me kind of a boogie beat and a Train rhythm, and just follow me.
You'll take care of the rest, right?
Yeah, they follow my hand signals and this and that. And when it came time for the rave up, I shook my hands the way that James said. That's another thing I'm learning from Cotton. Some of my stage signals. And we went to the floor, and oh my God, if I didn't feel like you got to be, what in me, no wonder that song was so popular because I hadn't played it for 20 years, and I pulled it out of the hat for an encore with no rehearsal. And when we went to that floor change, the guys in the band just lit up. The audience went crazy. And we kept it in the set of reception, and I'm doing a record now as kind of a dedication to Paul Butterfield. And I'm going to and we actually went into the studio and re-recorded that version of Train with my current band, and we're really, really excited about it.
When is that coming out?
Well, we're not sure. We've done all the facts. We've done all the facts. I have to do harmonica vocals. And, you know, Grace Kelly just, you know, the amazing young saxophonist who is one of the most gifted musicians, and I mean this, who's ever been on this planet. You know, at the age of 12, she was playing like Stan Getson when she was 14.
Yeah, she's quite a phenomenon.
Yeah, when she was 14 years old, and Wynton Marsalis called her the future of jazz. I mean, what's wrong with that, you know?
Yeah,
so she just, we wrote a song together for this record, and she just put a track down on it this previous Monday, which would have been the first Monday of the New Year. But anyway,
well, tell me,
yeah. So what we're doing, it's going to be on Cleopatra Records. It's kind of modeled after the early Butterfield records, where we have an instrumental, and we're playing like maybe 3 or 4 of the blues numbers, the way that Paul played them. You know, Mind to Give Up Feeling and Blues of the Feeling. I guess that was a little Walter song. I'm not sure, but anyway. But the other songs we're drastically rearranging and just having a ball updating One More Heartache and Mary Mary and a couple of other.
See, now you're really piquing my interest, because that first Paul Butterfield album, I don't even know how many times I played that growing up. So.
Well, yeah, you know the thing about that record is, and we're really excited. I mean, you know, Mary Mary from the second, I think
from the second one, yeah.
You know, that turned out to be, you know, I never knew this when I was growing up, but it was written by Mike Nesmith from the Monkees. And, and the Monkees actually have a version of it that's like this little sing-song thing that you can Google and see on YouTube. And, so we took that really wrenching, you know, that really dissonant, spooky, you know, tension-filled version of Mary Mary, and then we stole some stuff from the Monkees sing-song version and smushed them together, and
a mashup.
Yeah, a mashup. Yeah, we mashed it up and came up with something that we thought was really pretty cool.
Well, that sounds
so we're
great.
having a ball making that record.
Tell me a little bit about your band. I know that you've had a reputation over the years of really having some of the best sidemen in the business, and from what I see, you're still keeping that up. You've got a great group.
Yeah, no,
who are the guys playing with you now?
Well, yeah. Let me start and go back to Paul Butterfield as a way of referencing this. When the Jug Band, I eventually joined the Jug Band that I heard when I was 15, and actually the leader of the Jug Band was Chris Seo, who's now the leader of the Uptown Horns, and I just did 2 shows with him, so we've been playing together for 51 years.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, so when the Jug Band left, they were older than me, and at that point, the Jug Band had gone electric because we'd heard Paul Butterfield, and we went electric before Dylan did. I just want to get that on record. But anyway.
Okay.
But yeah. But anyway, so I didn't have a band. They all went out to school, and so I went around the east side of Detroit, and I went to all the cover bands, and I remember the band to this day: Rich Pop on drums, Jim Schwartz on keyboards, Brian Lang, Jim Brown, Chuck Miller. They were all playing in different bands, and they were the best players on the east side of Detroit. And I said, I want you guys to leave the bands that you're in and play this blues stuff. And I played them a Muddy Waters record. And they heard the Muddy Waters record, and they said, I'm supposed to leave my band that's playing the Kingsmen and the Beach Boys to play that? I don't think so. When Paul Butterfield put out his first record, I went to the same guy, and they all said, yeah, I'll leave my band to play that stuff. So, the very first band I ever started, I had the best players on the east side of Detroit. It was the first white blues band in Detroit, and it was a great band. And we ended up, my high school band, we opened up for Iggy Pop and the MC5, and
wow.
And so And so when I started my first band in Boston, I flew in all these great players from Detroit, and I always made sure that every time I had to replace somebody, I got the best guy in the business. When Larry Carsman left the band, I got Peter Malik, who was a regular player with Muddy Waters. You know, every time Muddy would come to town, to Boston, Peter Malik would play with him.
Right.
And Jeff Golub, and the list goes on. And but what happens is after 10, 15 years of this, you know, the reputation gets around that, you know, well,
guys start coming to you, yeah.
Yeah, if you got the gig with the Montgomery band, it's a stepping stone, or you know, it means you're a good player. So every band I've had the best players, you know, people who are on the level of the best in the business. And my band right now, it may be the best I've ever had. I have David Hall on bass, who played with Buddy Miles when he was 17. Buddy Miles.
I read that. I can't even believe that.
He was on the road with Buddy Miles when he was 17. Do you know what a wild man Buddy Miles was?
Yeah.
Especially when David was 17. I mean, you know, all of a sudden David's at the Playboy Mansion doing everything that you could possibly mansion could do there. But anyway, so, and he plays with the Joe Perry Project every time Joe tours. And occasionally, every once in a while, Aerosmith will need a sub at the bass position, and they'll call Dave for that. You know, of course, he's not a member of Aerosmith, and Tom Hamilton, you know, they're probably the nicest guy in the history of the music business, and all those guys in Aerosmith actually are fantastic people. But anyway, so in other words, the only reason I point that out is because that's Dave's pedigree. And then George McCann, my guitar player, you know, Eric Clapton is not a better guitar player than George McCann.
That guy can shred. I was impressed.
Yeah, he's on the same level. You know, who's better? You know, who's a better painter, Monet or Van Gogh? You know,
I liked it when I saw one performance where you were shouting out different guitarists that you wanted him to emulate, and he would just, you know, you would say B.B. King, and he would play like B.B. You'd say somebody else, and he would do that, and that's always fun when you're in the crowd, you know.
Yeah, and here again, that started out as an audible from the line of scrimmage, you know, where there was just one night before George's solo. I just made this stuff up. I said, you know, I was trying to explain to the audience what a great guitar player was. I said, you know, I'd like to introduce George McCann. You know, we're doing a shuffle, and he starts playing. We bring the band down dynamically. And then before he can finish his second chorus of the you know, slow with the lower dynamic, I just said, you know, I think this guy's the best in the business, and here's why. Hey George, play like Buddy Guy. I just made it up, right?
Right.
He played like Buddy Guy, and while he's playing like Buddy Guy, I'm going, okay, how about B.B. King? And he played like B.B. King, and then for some reason or another, I just threw it at him. I said, how about my brother, Wes Montgomery? You know, and like I say, that happened on one night, and I just threw these people at him. I think the first night I only threw about 3 or 4 at him. But now what I do is, every night I throw somebody at him that he's not expecting. You know,
that's fun. He's got to be on his toes, right?
yeah, because he'll never know. And actually, I got a guitar player. I had this guy, Bill Wall Brown, who's just another blues legend. He's played with everybody. He was subbing for George one night. So on yonder wall, when he was subbing this thing, he goes, hey, James, play like Little Walter. Hey, James, play like Sonny Boy Williamson. Hey, James, play like... And I said to myself, what the hell did I get George involved in, you know?
Yeah, really. It ain't easy.
Yeah.
Well, and I know you guys have a really cool gig coming up. I saw that you guys are playing at Daryl's house, which is, I guess, an offshoot of Daryl Hall's web concerts that he does. You guys are playing there on the 6th of February. That sounds like a fun gig.
Well, I'm so anxious to play there because when I joined the Caldwell Winfield band, I was still in college, and half the band lives in Woodstock and the other half of the band was in Boston, and I'd have me and David Maxwell, you know, the legendary David
Uh-huh.
Maxwell, who passed recently, but you know, he was a direct disciple of Otis Spann, and I mean a direct
Right.
disciple of Otis Spann. The two of them were like a guru and disciple, you know.
Uh-huh.
And so Mogi, it was his nickname back then. So Mogi and I would take the bus to Woodstock, and so and when the gigs were over, the Caldwell Winfield band. On the way home, we would stop by Deanie's and hang out with Paul. And if Paul wasn't there, then if it was late, we would stop by Lee Barnes' farm, his house, because he had a barn where he
Uh-huh.
would stay up late night and play. And you know, we all know that eventually Levon Helm had that ramble where it was $100 to get in and the whole thing. But he didn't make that up. I mean, that was going on since 1972 or 73, whenever it was. That we would just stop by on the way home from gigs. So I'm excited about playing Daryl's place, you know, because I have such respect and reverence for Daryl Hall. But also because, you know, that's the area where I got my start, really. With the first time I got known outside of Boston and you know, I used to hang out with Paul there, and Van Morrison was living there then, and I had a conversation with one of my conversations with him was just blew my mind, and I don't think I should talk about it on this show. It's just too much. But anyway, but you know, so I was hanging out in Woodstock a lot in those days, and it was like the happening place, and so. You know, Daryl's place being, you know, relatively close to that area. You know, I hope to see a lot of, the first place that ever billed me as a legend, was the Joyous Lake in Woodstock, and John Sebastian came down to see me that night. And for me, it was like, oh, here's John.
Very nice.
Wow. It was, wow, John Sebastian came out of it.
Yeah.
Just you. Wow, man, you know. But for me, it was just like, hey, here's John. How you doing, buddy? You know. But
nice.
So I love the area, and I'm so glad that I'm finally have a venue in that neighborhood to play again, and you know, and I'm glad to be taking in the band that I have here, which I'm so proud to present. And we're going to rip it up there. And the other thing is, you know, Butter lived in Woodstock for a long time. And,
and I know he had that association with the band. Obviously, he was at the last waltz along with everybody else, I guess, that hung out there.
Absolutely. So when we play there, we're going to probably 9 of the songs that we play are going to be Paul Butterfield songs done either the way he did them or our updated versions of them. And I'll just tell you this: my version of One More Heartache that we're recording is Paul Butterfield meets James Brown. That's all I'll say.
Okay. Hey, I love the way you take these old songs. I saw you do a version of that same thing where you started out playing it very traditionally, and then all of a sudden you amped it up and took it into a new place. And you know, my feeling about songs like that is if you're going to do an old Willie Dixon tune, you better try to do something a little bit different because, you know, we've all heard it.
Exactly. My, you know, same thing by Muddy Waters is absolutely one of my favorite slow blues songs ever. That one, and that when she was just 19, she got the waves of a baby child.
Yeah, that's a good one too. I like that one.
But same thing to me. You know, you look at these poets, you know, Sonny Boy Williamson, Willie Dixon, Muddy Waters, Mose Allison, these guys who are blues poets. I mean, what lyric could be better
Jimmy
than...
Reed.
Yeah. But what lyric could be better than what makes you feel so good when your baby put her evening gown on? Must be the same thing made a preacher lay his Bible down.
I know. Where did he come up with that?
I mean,
know.
You know,
that's the best line in the whole
me.
song right there. You're right.
Excuse me, you know, a preacher, you know, puts his Bible aside to have the extraneous sex and
does that happen?
Just away from his faith, you know, you know,
sexuality causes him to stray from this deep-rooted faith that he has. I mean, must be the same thing, make a preacher.
Yeah.
So anyway, so my idea on that song was, I wonder what ZZ, when Muddy Waters Shack, ZZ, Billy Gibbons took a plank off of Muddy Waters Shack and made it get the guitar out of it, so.
Yeah.
So on that particular song, I said to them, I told the guys, I said, hey, look, I want to do the same thing, but I want to do it like this. And I kind of hummed it out to them. I said, I want it to sound like ZZ Top, So, and we have a ball. That song has become so strong for us, and.
Yeah, well, it's really fun. And it's very unexpected because you start out enjoying what you're doing with it at first and you think, oh, well, they're playing that song and it sounds really good. And then you do what you do with it and it's almost like when Tina says, let's do it rough now. You know what I mean? It's that change.
Well, thank you for that comparison too. And that was another audible at the line of Stillings, when we recorded the song, we did it like the ZZ Top version that I call it. But then one day, before we played it, I wanted the audience to understand what was going on because, in the words of Dr. Don, some of these people need a blues education, So I told the guys in the mass, hey, listen, guys, tonight, start it out slow and watch me, So started out slow like the original, watch me, and then I put my hands up and for the stop and had them die down, and then I said, now we're going to play it like we do on the record. 1, 2, 3, 4, ba-da-da-da-da-da-da.
Yeah.
So that was another thing that we had fun with is going from the slow version to the ZZ Top version.
Right. Now your band is going to be also, from what I understand, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe you guys are going to be opening for the Johnny Winter All-Star Band on that tour that's going. I believe that's in February, sort of around his birthday. Is that correct?
Well, yeah, but it's not going to be my band. I'm going to be playing with the Johnny Winter All-Stars.
Oh, you're playing. Okay.
Yeah,
you're playing in the Johnny Winter All-Stars.
Yeah, I'm fronting that band.
Okay.
And I'll tell you, the 5 years I spent with Johnny Winter, the most unique person I ever met in this incarnation. I have so much love and reverence for that guy, especially, and I can say this on the air now because it's all in a book and everyone knows.
And it's done.
But, when he was doing the prescription drugs, it was because they were prescribed. Johnny didn't go out Johnny never went out and tried to score prescription drugs or tried to do this. His doctors and his management team prescribed them to him. He was taking 20 a day.
Lord.
And eventually, Paul Nelson and me started figuring out what was going on. And I plugged him into, for a while I was running a program which I'm going to revamp where we provide free health care for all New England blues musicians and any musician who happens to be visiting in New England. I've got a team of doctors and a team of hospitals.
Oh, that's terrific.
And we provide effective treatment. So I plugged Johnny into that program, and 8 months later, he was taking 0 prescription drugs because it turns out he didn't need any of them.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, I don't know how I got off on this tangent here, but oh yeah. So I'll be fronting that band, and it's all people that the qualification to play in that band is you had to have been a member of the Johnny Winter Band.
Right.
But anyway,
so Paul's going to be in the band. You're there, and whoever else.
Paul Nelson, Scott Spray, and Tommy and drums, but Johnny, and I want the people that hear this to know that, because everyone has a story that, oh boy, Johnny was so weak and frail at the end of his life. Well, he wasn't. He went through a period where he was weak and frail. But once he got off the prescription drugs and he quit drinking on his own and he quit smoking on his own. And when I found out that Johnny Winter had stopped smoking pot, that's when I thought, oh my God, the world's coming. You're going to come to an end of the minute. I said, what, Johnny has stopped smoking marijuana? You got to be kidding me. But he did that too. And ended up the last 5 years of his life recorded with Joe Bonamassa and Eric Clapton and Steve Tedeschi and Derek Trucks and Dr. John, and the list goes on and on. He recorded with
and that I've seen that video of him doing Death Letter, and he doesn't look weak to me. He
was so. Yeah, and sometimes when I wrote a song called Little Johnny that we recorded in the studio with Johnny, and that was another night. We're sitting there. The requirement was that the studio had to be within 10 minutes of a gig of his, so he was playing in Foxborough, and we found a spunky studio with a great engineer. This guy had engineered Keith Richards, and he had engineered Eric Clapton. So we bring Johnny in there, and there's no lights out. It's like a deserted warehouse in the middle of the woods or something. And we bring him in, and it's like an episode of 24. There's just flashlights and clandestine stuff going on. and we sit him down, and of course my guitar player wanted to be there, and my producer David Hall was there. And then the engineer who recorded Clapton and Keith Richards was there. And then each one of those guys brought a heavy-duty guitar freak in with them because they wanted to see this go down. So it was like this studio in the middle of nowhere, and there was the rubbish place next door, and they promised they would turn off the music when we came in to record so it wouldn't bleed into the studio. But anyway, when Johnny started playing the slide guitar, because even in the days when he was like, on the prescription stuff, he never ever lost the ability to just burn on the slide.
Yeah.
So Johnny starts playing the slide guitar, and Joey Kramer's on drums on this from Aerosmith, by the way, and also from Aerosmith, Brad Whitford's on guitar. And Johnny starts playing his track, and everybody gets wide-eyed and their jaws drop, right?
Yeah.
And he rips his way through this up-tempo song that I wrote. I kind of wrote it with Sleepy Beats in mind, you know.
Uh-huh. Yeah, sure.
Western, you know, the rockabilly guy. It's kind of a rockabilly song, so everyone's jaw drops and everyone's eyes get wide open. And at the end of the thing, you know, you're producing a record, so the producer, David Hall, goes, Johnny, why don't you do one more just so we can have another one, you know? And Johnny was his own biggest fan, I will admit that. And he always says, I don't think I can top that. How can I play better than, how can I play better than what I just played? So then we go, now just play one more. Now, Johnny, yeah? You want to see some, what, the X's and S and N's of the T? You want to see some of that? And the second take, as much as he blew everyone away with the first take, the second take just left us all exhausted, just watching it go down.
Yeah.
And so we kept it exactly the way he played it with no overdubs but anyway, so the Johnny.
He was a real artist, that's for sure. He was quite amazing.
Yeah.
I've been a big fan of his. Go ahead.
Yeah, so we're gonna we're just so we're gonna have a ball. Johnny won the Grammy, and but he wasn't around to know about it. And
yeah, that was very kind of bittersweet for all of you guys that were working with him. Yeah, so we're just doing a couple little mini tours, just kind of because, like I say, Johnny was his own biggest fan, and he really was. But I mean that in a good and an endearing way. Right.
But we think that when Johnny won the Grammy, that rather than just have it be a one-night thing where everyone sees that he won a Grammy Award, and then that's it, we think that he probably would have wanted us to go out and play a little bit and honor him and point out to everyone that he won the Grammy, So we're doing this out of love for Johnny, that we want to get out there and play the songs that we played with him and draw attention to the fact that, Johnny Winter won a Grammy.
Yeah, that's great.
That sounds like it'll be kind of an emotional tour, but it'll also be a bit of a release for all you guys to play with them, probably.
Yeah, and it's really high energy material. Johnny. Johnny would play one slow song a night. Everything else was like turn it up loud and play it fast.
And just run. Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
Well, we all appreciate that. And I really do appreciate you spending some time with me, James. We're looking forward to that Butterfield tribute coming out. We'll be looking for that, and I'll certainly be letting all of our listeners know when that comes out. And
and there'll be a documentary.
Well,
thank you very much. And there'll be a documentary coming out about Paul too. Bonnie Raitt's in it, and Alvin Bishop.
That's right.
A whole bunch of us tonight. And
that's Down and Dirty. That's coming out next month in February, I believe. So we'll all be lots of stuff coming out about Johnny in the next few months. In conjunction with his birthday in February. So we're all
absolutely. And Mike, thank you for everything you do for blues and blues musicians. I think it's a niche market of like 2.1% of the.
I know. But those of us that are in that niche we're very passionate about it,
it's the basis for everything. And let me go on record right now as saying that I think for next year's Grammys, I'm going to call up Bonnie Raitt and Eric Clapton and the people I know and tell them, look, I want everyone to wear a blue ribbon, like the pink ribbons and the yellow ribbons. Those, how they look. I want all these people to wear the blue ribbons, and when they're asked why they're wearing it, I want them to say because nobody announces who won the Blues Award, and we want 10 seconds of this ceremony to go to the person who won the award for blues. We want 10 seconds of the broadcast, 1,000, 2,000, 10 seconds of the broadcast to just cut in and show who won the award for blues. Because without the blues, there wouldn't be any Usher, there wouldn't be any Whitney Houston, there wouldn't be any of these people that win the Grammys every year. Without the blues and without that music, none of these people, they'd be accepting Grammys for songs, and I don't mean this offensively because I love this music, they'd be accepting Grammys for songs that sounded like Celtic folk music.
Exactly. And I mean, that's what my website is all about, is celebrating the fact that the blues exist in all of our popular music in America, no matter what. Hell, it even ends up in some classical music here and there. I mean, so it's just pervasive.
The 1-4-5 change was something that the classical musicians used all the time because the intervals are pleasing to the Western sensibilities. Right. But anyway, I want all these people to wear a blue ribbon, and when asked why they're wearing it, I'm going to want them to say, we want the Grammy people to give 10 seconds to the people who invented this music that everyone's winning these awards for.
I think that's a very worthy thing. These people need more recognition. And
they do. I don't want anybody to have to, like I say, John Lee Hooker, B.B. King, Buddy Guy. The list is, Joe Bonamassa now, Stevie Ray Vaughan. The list is very short of real blues musicians who understand in their lifetime what great musicians they were and how much they contributed. And speaking of which, what a great show you have and how much you contribute as well.
Well, thank you very much, James. I really appreciate it, and good luck to you out there this year. Hopefully we'll reconnect maybe later in the year and we can talk about what's been going on. So thanks for joining me here on mybluesroots.com.
Well, thank you very much. Bye-bye.